Welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the all signs reading. It's gonna be fairly short, but there's been lots of interruptions, lots of barking dogs, and technology issues like the one that just happened that closed out my app. But I'm just gonna roll with it because that's the energy that Spirit is inviting us to get into, to recognize when we are irritated and release that. Say, all right, yes, I'm irritated. It's there. So, Hunter! Shh. What I was talking about before was that this card, in fact, fits very much with that song that I was talking about. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need. I think that a fair amount of us are going to be looking at past versus future, and especially in terms of relationships, and where we've been making choices that make us feel tied to toxic situations, ones that keep us focused on the loss of toxic things that weren't even good for us, and looking back behind us and seeing that we still have Two of Cups back there. That could be a friendship, it could be a business, it could be a relationship with yourself, it could be an ex or someone you're in separation with, or whatever it is. And as these, we'll look at the rest of the deck for a minute and see, but as these issues get brought up, these two, more and more, we're going to see why we feel stuck. Because this, like, when this card is up here, it's a card about maturing and and not feeling so triggered by that which is going on around us, because we can see we can see from the view of our inner beings, which is kind of that hawk's eye view too. And I know for a fair amount of folks that's going to include control issues. In fact, with Saturn being in there, that there's what I'm really seeing is that Spirit's going to bring up a lot of places where we feel powerless, and we feel like we don't have control when either we should, or we feel like somebody else wants us to have control when we shouldn't be taking part in it, or we shouldn't be rescuing or enabling or doing things like that. But because this is Lionsgate, there's also, and especially with that Devil card, there's going to be a strong look at abuse of power, I think. So, bottom of the deck, Star reversed, of course, right on that. This is two energies I'm sensing. One is this, our ability to connect with our inner beings is being made a bit foggy. And I think this is coming mostly from the full moon in Aquarius energy that we're still feeling. But the other thing about this is kind of grieving what we once wished upon a star for, sort of, but recognizing that it's not gone, it's just changed. Or that, like, yeah, it might momentarily not be what you had wished for, but it doesn't mean that it's gone. Top of the deck, so hot topic of the day, 9 of Pentacles in reverse. Usually in upright, this is a really great card to see. Like, she is totally self-sufficient, emotionally, physically, romantically, financially. Like, she's good. And like that bird she has on her wrist is not there because she's tied it or tamed it or done anything like that. It's there because it wants to be. And in reverse, what it often, that's funny, wasn't I just talking about that with the Devil card? It often represents codependence, the opposite of it, being kind of trapping yourself in situations that are not good for you because it feels momentarily like they bring stability, but they don't. And with all of the solar plexus energy in here, that's definitely connecting with that Leo energy. Although this might suggest that there are going to be earth signs or people that are in, I'm going to say an Enneagram 8, in a negative 8 sort of state, which is somebody who is passive aggressive and very bullyish and will often play the victim in order to get you to rescue them. Or if you don't do that and you don't get involved enough, then they go to a place of like being really critical and trying to play on your shame cycle. Now, this could be you doing this, or it could be someone else, but it's probably going to be a reflection. So even if you've gotten to a place of emotional maturity that you're not reacting, check what's going on within. You might still have something going on there. Middle of the deck, Page of Pentacles in reverse. So investments that were made that did not work out. So seeds that were planted that died. Either we planted too many and we lost all of them because we split our focus, or we planted in bad soil that wasn't very good, or it had a bunch of toxic stuff in it, so even when stuff grew you couldn't eat it or anything like that. And because it's a page, it's also about immaturity. So a lot of us are probably going to be looking at issues of the past that seem to have resurfaced now, and investments that we've made, especially since I'm going to say since the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio in October 2019-ish. So look between then and now and look at what investments did you make that don't seem to be working out. It could be that you jumped in or out, into or out of a relationship, or into or out of a job, or maybe you thought that you had dealt with some kind of an old cycle, an old trauma cycle, and you haven't. But take a look at that and let's see. So right under the star, we have the moon. So this is good in that we are being led back to a place of faith, to where even when things seem foggy and we don't know exactly how the path is going to unfold in front of us, we have faith in spirit and ourselves, and we keep moving. It also, though, is a card of clandestine affairs and hidden enemies. And when it's an upright, it's flowing of emotion around those things. I'm really getting called to there's a lobster in it. And the color of him too is kind of like a murky red. So like root chakra issues, especially anything that makes us feel unsafe. And I'm getting called to the pillars that are in there. Now this card represents both Cancer and Capricorn. It's an interesting card. And what's between the two pillars is a really good reader once told me that the little, those are stars back there, and it's supposed to be in the constellation of Capricorn. Now in the art it doesn't actually show that, but that's what it's supposed to represent. And so what I'm thinking, what's coming through is that we're looking at the pillars, and we're looking at pedestals. Like, how do we put ourselves on pedestals? How do we put others on pedestals? Are we being human about them? Are we being too emotional? And there's also the illusion of, like say twin flame, false flame thing. Like, you might be with somebody who seems a lot like someone else that you know, and they in many ways maybe even seem like a better version, and yet there's a lot of toxicity in there, or it's not working out the way that you had thought that it would be. Or it may be that you have someone that you think is like a good business partner, a good friend, or a good potential partner, and when really, like, you're putting them on a pedestal and not seeing the other option that you have. At any rate, something about looking at the dualities and the illusion, and then because it's constellation of Capricorn, like an evolution in there, and then also the things that make us feel stable and unstable emotionally. And of course, right under the moon card, the Emperor. So father issues, anybody that plays like a, well, it doesn't have to be male or female, or it doesn't have to be in the binary, but whoever plays kind of a divine masculine role, a father, a partner, things of that, the protector, the stability of situations. So those things are going to come up. And this is an Aries card too, so I'm not surprised with the Aries moon coming in and all this stuff with the Lionsgate, that's going to be a big thing for us in the next 48. Then we have the Seven of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles. Interesting. So 2 sevens in there. And sevens typically tend to be pauses, and if we add the 2 sevens together, we get 14, which is temperance, which is, slowing it down, being patient, not being tempted to get too far out there. So what I'm getting the sense of is that there are still a fair amount of energies going on with people with other people being triggered around you, and you learning to be okay being in a reflective state while that's happening, and vice versa. You may feel really triggered about one issue or another, and what you're seeing is other people that don't seem to be, they don't seem to care that much, or maybe they're focusing more on work or their garden, and it doesn't seem like you're being recognized, or for them maybe they don't feel recognized. But this card is recognition and ego, and it's also attached to a lot of Leo energy. So there might be a fair amount of communication about how we feel recognized or unrecognized, understood, seen or not seen, things like that. And one way or another, it's going to lead to healing, but there's some emotional baggage in there. So yeah, there might be some confusion in terms of the communication. People, yeah, if you got a bratty side, it's probably going to be amplified, and that might create delays in its own way. So as much as you can, it's hard to say. Like, I don't want to say don't speak up, because right now with all the energy in Leo, it's about speaking up, about speaking your truth. So what I'm going to say for all signs is that it's a good time to examine where you feel like you have to wait and be delayed more often than you should. And especially when it comes to friendships and partnerships and reunion and the things that bring you joy, and any situations where things are out of balance, especially codependent situations that have to do with money. Yeah, there's a fair amount of drama, just drama that doesn't even need to be there at all. And it might take away from work situations, commitments, long-term projects, and either make you or someone around you feel like they're not in their element and they're not in their personal power. Probably a fair amount of family upsets. That's not good or bad. Sometimes it needs to happen so things can level up a little bit. But definitely immaturity, and it's likely to be a little more heightened from anyone with strong fire sign elements, especially Aries. We might be asked to look at how we're being hypocrites, or how we are reflecting that which we are being triggered by, and there will probably continue to be delays, interruptions, things happening when you least expect it that get your goat and throw you out of your receptive mode. There might also be a fair amount of toxic feminine energy and boundary breaking, as well as a look at what are we hiding and what are we being truthful about, and how is either side good and bad. A fair amount of deceptive energy in there, but it looks like a lot of it is mostly just misunderstandings, or it might be the clarification of misunderstandings, but a lot of it has to do with third-party situations that got jumped into, probably during a Mercury retrograde, that are not working out. This can sometimes be an eviction card too, so some of you may be getting evicted or evicting someone else, or leaving a situation in a in a shelter situation where you're feeling like your boundaries are broken. This card, I mean, usually I just read this as being antisocial, but I'm feeling like right now part of our task is to do this. So pay attention to any dreams that come in, and remember that if you can't communicate to somebody directly, you can still communicate to them indirectly, in the sense of, like, you can communicate with your thoughts. You can imagine you're having said conversation you feel like you want to have, or you can journal it, or you can do a voice note about it. You can still have that. You don't necessarily need to have it with them right now. So if there's some sort of thing that you feel like needs to be done right now, it's really not a great time to do that. Instead, take it a little bit more abstractly for right now. You'll probably even find that your thoughts are a little bit clearer, and it'll save you from being this guy, which is, you know, narcissistic jerk number one, being overly cold and logical anyways. And if you can do that, if you can stay in a comfortable place, then wish fulfillment is on its way, and quickly. It'll likely be either you or someone you know leaving a situation that they thought was going to bring them the Ten of Cups, but they realize that it's not where they were, that it was, that they need to go out and find the next cup, that Nine of Cups, which is that wish fulfillment. That's what they're looking for, because they're dissatisfied with where they are, or you are, and tired of juggling, and tired of repressing emotions, ready for that new start. And yeah, and again, seeing more of that. In fact, I'm going to stop on that one for this all signs reading, because it feels very significant. This is the Thief card and the Cheater card and the Strategy card. And because if it was in reverse, it would mean consequences, somebody getting caught for it. But because it is in upright, I think what the theme, kind of fitting with the Heart of the Matter videos that I've been doing, is that we're looking at where we feel like our time, our attention, our thoughts, our energy is being stolen by somebody else. And I'm being called to a part in this card I've never really looked at before. In the corner up here, or down here, is like this little, it's like three dudes sitting kind of under a smoke cloud, so they must be by a fire. One of them has like a super long staff that he's holding, and they're all very shadowy back there. So I think, and because they're so small, I'm feeling like this is pulling up the things that people do that seem like they're small issues, but then they set us up to be taken advantage of, or they build up over time and become a ton of things that we're carrying, and we're constantly like looking back going, look how much I have had to carry because of this. I can't stand in my personal power when I'm carrying so much of this. It's also a card often of thinking about lovers of the past. So you might end up interacting with exes, or you might spend a lot of time thinking about somebody in the past, maybe somebody that you've been repressing feelings about. And I think that, especially coming in with Lionsgate, that's kind of a theme. It feels like the energy coming up is saying, this is what you've been repressing, so this is what is going to come out. It's like pulling the skeletons out of the closet and laying them out on the floor, which is funny because that was one of my first readings that I did, was that Mercury retrograde in Scorpio in October time of 2019. And it was about the skeletons are about to be brought out in front of you. If you don't face them and clean them up and move them and bury them, whatever you got to do with them, then Spirit is saying they're going to be laid out on display for everybody to see, where you're going to be forced to deal with them and face them and own whatever they are. It feels like that's kind of what's coming up right now. Anything that we have not been willing to look at and heal is probably going to be put on display for those closest to us, as well as anybody within a reasonable radius of our energy field. I don't know how else to say it. So if you'd like a personal reading, please let me know. I leave my email in the description box below. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next 48 for all the signs, as well as the Heart of the Matter videos that I'm doing to kind of help everybody look at what exactly those the issues are that Seven of Swords is bringing up. All right, thanks so much. See you in the next video.